Final story of the night, the EU's highest court has ruled that headscarves can be banned at work under certain circumstances. The decision was made in a ruling on two cases brought by women in Germany who were suspended from their jobs for wearing hijabs. Their employers, a childcare centre and a pharmacy, said they wanted to present a neutral, non-religious image to customers to avoid dispute. I spoke to Bushra Shaikh, runner-up of The Apprentice, who wore a hijab for 26 years before taking it off in 2019, and Shreen Mahmood, who is the UK Ambassador for World Hijab Day. I started by asking Bushra, what do you think about the EU's highest court ruling that headscarves can be banned at work under certain circumstances?
Personally, I think it's absolutely horrendous. I just feel like we cannot still be in that space. I mean, from my personal experience, of course, it was never by my peers, that my hijab was ever seen as something different. It was, of course, by my bosses, by, people higher up in charge. But that's actually one of the reasons why I became an entrepreneur, because of those because of the kind of feelings that I got when I was in the workplace. But again, I'm going to just also emphasize it wasn't from my colleagues. It was always from people that were higher up. They almost, when they saw me in a hijab, they almost expected like I couldn't do the job as well, or they were expecting more from me for some reason. It's a really strange thing, but no, I just don't think that's acceptable.
The argument, of course, was that the employer wanted to present a neutral, non-religious image to customers.
I mean, what's the point of having a non-neutral image to customers? We live in a religious neutral environment. That's how the whole world works. I mean, we should have the freedom to express us how we are happy. The hijab, whether it's used by a Muslim woman, by a non-Muslim woman, it's the freedom of choice. And it's not something really that affects anything, to be honest.
Shreen?
Hi. Yeah, so I'd have to agree with Bushra here on the fact that it's quite outrageous that we're still speaking about, a woman and what she can wear and what she can't wear, whether that's in the workplace at the moment. Okay, so European Court has said what they have said. This does affect, everyone who chooses to wear a hijab. There's protests earlier on this year with Brussels and the universities. There was protests against this, and whether we like it or not, we know Islamophobia exists, but so does hijabophobia as well. And I actively campaign against, this hijabophobia that we seem to be, witnessing in broad daylight against Muslim women who choose to cover. It's a shame because it's to do with human rights. If we strip it all away, the choice, the freedom, the human rights, which is supposed to cover the choice of faith expression, for example, this is what's at play. It would be a shame to live in a society where we can't respect other people's choices, which, choosing to wear a hijab shouldn't affect my colleague, it shouldn't affect my boss, it shouldn't affect anyone I'm dealing with on a client level or a customer base. It should be just something that is as acceptable as choosing to wear a jacket or not to wear a jacket, So this is crazy that in this society where we've worked so hard to live together in harmony with, gay rights, with all sorts of rights being protected, but a Muslim woman cannot choose to wear hijab at workplace or in an academic institution such as universities in the European countries. It's crazy that we're still having this conversation, and I would urge everyone to get together and actually think about this and what does this mean, for the whole of society. What are we allowing to happen, and what rights we should be protecting?
Bushra, what reaction did you get when you took your hijab off?
There was multiple questions from everyone. Everyone always questioned why I decided to do that. I mean, the thing is, at the end of the day, it is that whole part of the freedom of choice, why you do something. Of course, I adopted the hijab because I was a Muslim woman, that it felt right at the time. And then obviously part of my growth, I realised that perhaps I wasn't wearing it for the right reasons. But Stephen, I want to emphasise that mandation like this is fueling Islamophobia. We are trying to get away from that. We are trying to to create a whole new way that people see Muslims. You know, there's been too much within the media, and this just fuels that. And as a woman myself who used to wear hijab, who now doesn't, I stand firmly with anybody in any sphere, whether they're Sikhs, Jewish, Muslim, whatever they choose to wear, that's a symbol of their faith. That should be something we allow now. I mean, I can go into my experiences, even when I was filming The Apprentice, how people perceived me during the process of that thing. And having rules like this within the workplace is just fueling that, and we need to stand up against it.
But this is reaffirming a 2017 ruling, isn't it? And this is where companies, if they can show that they have a policy against all religious and political symbols, can ban headscarves. So why do you not agree with that? It's a consistent policy where no religious symbols or political symbols are allowed in the workplace. If the company has that policy, why would they make an exception for the hijab?
Well, look, I mean, there's a clear difference between political symbols and religious symbols, for starters. And like I mentioned before, it would be a shame to take all religion out of our day-to-day lives. And not just a shame, that it's just out of this world that we're in this conversation right now. It's a choice to choose what we wear. If I wear black shoes or if I wear red shoes in the morning, does my employer have the right to choose that? If I choose to express my faith, and this is what it comes down to, it's the freedom to choose to express one's faith wearing a hijab. It's not an optional thing. It's something that we hold very dear, and it's part of our identity. Why are we now allowing and, you know, saying that it's not okay to wear a turban or a hijab or a kippah? It's unacceptable, you know, and where does it stop? And that's the biggest concern here. As part of World Hijab Day, I'm the ambassador for the UK, and we actively try and create an understanding with, you know, within our communities and wider society what hijab is and what it means to us. And hopefully, I mean, other than side of things, yes, we can try and put a positive spin on all of this, that we want to create an understanding, but sometimes it just is so frustrating, because I do sometimes want to ask, what is the problem with my hijab? Why are people so focused on, you know, a Muslim woman's choice to wear hijab? And the hijab is, obviously, it is always pinpointed in these conversations.
Okay, listen, we'll leave it there and we'll see what our listeners think.